Video opens with the grainy, overexposed look of a 16mm film. We see a slow-motion shot of a hand hesitantly reaching for the volume knob on an old, silver-faced stereo receiver. Dust motes dance in a single shaft of light. The sound is muted, except for a low, ambient hum. Voiceover. There is a weight you carry that has no name. It isn't failure. You know what failure feels like. It's the sharp, clean sting of rejection, the dull ache of a door closing. This is something else entirely. It's the heaviness of an unopened door. It's the manuscript in your desk drawer, the one you know is the best thing you've ever written. It's the business plan that could change an industry, saved as final_draft_v7. And never opened again. It's the silent, perfect argument you make in the shower, the one that could resolve a conflict that's been tearing your family apart, but which never passes your lips. This isn't procrastination. It's a kind of self-imposed quarantine. A fear, not that you will fail, but that you will succeed, and in doing so, unleash something you cannot control. We're going to give this feeling a name. We'll call it the amplifier's dread. It's the terror that grips the person who discovers they can make the quietest whisper sound like thunder, and who is then paralyzed by the question, what should I say? By the end of our time together today, you will not only understand this paralysis, you will possess a framework for dismantling it. A lost manifesto, born from cigarette smoke and feedback in a forgotten corner of late 20th century Tokyo. A guide to saving the world, by first learning how to survive the sound of your own voice. Title card. Grainy, stylized Japanese text flashes on screen, then resolves into English. Saving the world with rock and roll, the final manifesto. A single, sustained guitar note hangs in the air. ## phase 2. The problem. Visuals. A montage of mundane, lonely scenes from 1990s Japan. A salaryman riding a nearly empty late-night train, his reflection staring back from the dark window. A teenager sitting in her room, surrounded by posters, headphones on but no music playing. A payphone on a rainy street corner, ringing unanswered. Voiceover. You feel it, don't you? This pressure building behind your eyes. A sense of immense, unexpressed potential. You have a unique insight, a particular way of seeing the world that you know, in your bones, has value. A specific frequency that is yours and yours alone. And you can almost feel what would happen if you were to broadcast it. You can see the ripples. You can imagine the conversations changing, the heads turning, the system glitching for just a moment. If you publish that article, if you launch that project, if you speak that truth, things will not be the same. And that is the root of the terror. Because your idea, your truth, is not a gentle suggestion. It is a form of psychic demolition. To build your vision, old structures must come down. The comfortable lies your friends tell themselves, the inefficient systems at your workplace, maybe even the fragile peace you've negotiated with your own past. To broadcast your signal is to risk breaking the consensus. To risk being the one who breaks the world. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're an architect. You've spent years designing a building. It's not just a building, it's a new way of living. It's elegant, efficient, beautiful. But to build it, the city has to tear down a beloved, crumbling old theater where people have a lot of fond memories. The city council is waiting for your final presentation. Your blueprints are perfect. Your models are stunning. You know, logically, your building is better for the future. But all you can think about is the ghost of that old theater. The memories. The lives it touched. You think about the anger of the preservationists, the sadness of the community, the headlines. Soulless modernist destroys city's heart. So you don't go to the meeting. You call in sick. You tell yourself the model needs one more tweak. You let the deadline pass. The old theater continues to crumble, and your perfect building remains a ghost on paper. Nothing is gained. But, you tell yourself, at least nothing was lost. This is the lie of the amplifier's dread. The hidden cost isn't the explosion you fear. It's the slow, silent implosion of the self. The unexpressed idea doesn't just vanish. It curdles. It turns inward. It becomes a quiet resentment, a constant, low-grade hum of bitterness. You start to resent the world for not having the vision you refused to show it. You become a critic, a ghost haunting the hallways of what could have been. Your silence doesn't preserve the peace. It poisons the well. Phase 3. Solution. Visuals. We shift to what looks like animation cells and production sketches from a lost anime. The style is dark, moody, reminiscent of 80s OVAs. We see a character, a lanky, disheveled man in his late 20s with tired eyes, chain-smoking in a cluttered room filled with audio equipment. Voiceover. In 1989, as the Gilded Age of Japan's economic miracle began to crack and fade, a small animation studio released an obscure, direct-to-video feature. It was called Ghost Frequency, Tokyo Requiem. It was a commercial failure, and most copies were lost. But a mythos grew around it in the deep archives of the internet. It tells the story of Kenji Tanaka, a reclusive sound engineer and experimental musician. Kenji isn't a hero. He's a burnout, haunted by his own talent. In the story, Kenji stumbles upon what he calls the resonance key, not a magical spell, but a precise combination of audio frequencies, harmonics, and subliminal rhythms that bypasses conscious thought and interfaces directly with the human limbic system. The collective unconscious. Played one way, it can induce a state of serene calm and empathy in an entire city block. Played another way, with a slight shift in phase, it can trigger paranoia, rage, and mass hysteria. A shadowy tech conglomerate, the Yagami Corporation, learns of his discovery. They don't want to silence him. They want to hire him. They want to weaponize his music, to use it to pacify protesters, to energize workers, to create consumer demand out of thin air. They want him to be the sound of control. Kenji is paralyzed by the amplifier's dread. His instrument, his art, has become a potential weapon of mass psychological destruction. His solution, scribbled in a notebook filled with musical notation and circuit diagrams, becomes the philosophical core of the story. His final manifesto. The central idea is radically simple. You do not save the world by playing the perfect song. You save the world by becoming the perfect instrument. The mistake, Kenji realizes, is focusing on the output, the impact, the audience, the result. This is what creates the dread. The responsibility is too immense. The only way to broadcast a signal that heals instead of harms is to stop thinking about the broadcast entirely, and focus only on the source. Yourself. His manifesto breaks down into 3 core principles. Principle 1. Embrace the static. Kenji's early attempts to create a pure, calming frequency fail miserably. They sound sterile, inhuman. He realizes that a signal with no noise is dead. His breakthrough comes when he stops trying to filter out the noise of his own psyche, his fear, his doubt, his grief over a lost love. Instead, he records the sound of his own unsteady breathing. He samples the hum of the faulty wiring in his apartment. He weaves his imperfections, his static, directly into the composition. The principle is this: your flaws are not bugs to be fixed. They are part of your unique resonance. Your fear isn't something to be conquered before you can act, it's the baseline. Your self-doubt isn't a sign to stop, it's the feedback that makes the melody interesting. Authenticity is not the absence of noise. It is the honest integration of it. Don't try to be a perfect signal. Be a true one. Principle 2. Play for an audience of 1. The Yagami Corporation offers Kenji the world's biggest stage, a broadcast tower that can reach all of Tokyo. The pressure to compose the right message, the perfect song to save millions, crushes him. He can't write a single note. He's trying to please, to fix, to control an audience of millions. His manifesto proposes a radical reorientation. You must create, write, and speak for an audience of 1, the most honest, uncensored, and authentic version of yourself. Not the self you present to your boss, or your parents, or social media. But the self that exists at 4 a.m. when you're alone with your own thoughts. Ask not, what does the world need to hear? Ask, what do I need to say to be honest with myself? The moment you shift the focus from external validation to internal alignment, the amplifier's dread begins to lose its power. You are no longer responsible for how the world reacts. You are only responsible for the integrity of your own transmission. Principle 3. Modulate, don't broadcast. This is the final, crucial key. The impulse of the ego, when it has a great idea, is to shout it from the rooftops. To hold a press conference, to launch a massive campaign, to seize the broadcast tower. This is the mistake. A loud, forceful signal invites an equally forceful resistance. It creates conflict. It forces people to choose sides. Kenji's manifesto argues for modulation. To modulate a signal is to subtly alter it, to embed it within a larger carrier wave. It is the art of the whisper, not the sermon. Don't try to drop your truth on the world like a bomb. Release it like a scent. Let it be discovered. Embed your revolutionary idea in a simple story. Place your searing social critique inside a beautiful melody. Share your grand vision not in a manifesto, but in a quiet, one-on-one conversation. The most profound changes are not announced. They are realized. The central metaphor of the entire manifesto is this: you are not a radio station. You are a tuning fork. A radio station's job is to be loud, to overpower other signals, to capture the largest possible audience. It is an act of force. A tuning fork is different. Its job is to produce a single, pure, true note. You strike it once. You don't slam it against the table over and over. You strike it, and then you hold it up. And you wait. Most people will hear nothing. They aren't tuned to that frequency. But somewhere, someone whose internal world is already resonating at that same pitch will feel it. They will hear that note. It won't tell them what to do. It will simply confirm something they already suspected. It will give them permission to trust their own instincts. It will make them feel less alone. And they, in turn, will begin to resonate more clearly. They will become a tuning fork for someone else. This is how you save the world. Not with a single, deafening broadcast, but with a cascading, quiet resonance. Phase 4. The application. Visuals. We shift to more practical, grounded shots. A handwriting in a journal. A person walking through a quiet park at dawn. Someone sketching on a tablet in a cafe. The lighting is soft and natural. Voiceover. This philosophy is not just an abstract comfort. It is a practical strategy. The final manifesto is a user's manual for dismantling the amplifier's dread. We can reverse engineer Kenji's process into a practical, 3-day exercise. Think of it as a calibration of your own instrument. A resonance test. I want you to try this with that one project, that one idea, that one truth you've been holding in quarantine. Step 1. The static audit. For the next 24 hours, your only task is to listen to your own noise. Get a notebook or open a blank document. Title it, Static. Throughout the day, do not try to suppress, argue with, or solve any of your fears or negative thoughts related to your project. Your job is to be an objective sound engineer. Just identify and log them. Write them down, exactly as they appear in your mind. I'm afraid people will think I'm arrogant. I'm worried this isn't as original as I think it is. What if this succeeds and I have to keep doing it forever? What if my friends see me differently? This is not an exercise in self-pity. This is reconnaissance. You are mapping the interference. By the end of the day, you will have a list of your static. Don't judge it. Just look at it. This is the raw material. This is the feedback and hum you will weave into your work. By acknowledging it, you rob it of its power to operate in the shadows. You have embraced the static. Step 2. The silent rehearsal. On the second day, you will work on your project for 1 hour. There is one non-negotiable rule. You must do it with the absolute certainty that no one else will ever see it. This is a rehearsal for an audience of 1. If you're a writer, write a chapter that you will delete tomorrow. If you're a coder, build a feature purely for the joy of solving the problem. If you're an artist, paint on the back of the canvas. The goal is to disconnect the act of creation from the fear of reception. This is not about performance. It is about alignment. You are finding the pure note. You are asking yourself, what does this work want to be if it doesn't need to impress anyone? What does it sound like when it's just for me? In this silent rehearsal, you will rediscover the joy and integrity of the work itself. You will remember why you started. You are playing for your truest self. Step 3. The modulated signal. On the third day, you will release a tiny, almost imperceptible piece of your project into the world. You are not launching. You are not announcing. You are modulating. The goal is to choose an action so small that it generates zero fear. If you've written a book, don't post about it. Take one single, powerful sentence from it and use it as your status update without any context. If you've designed a product, don't show the blueprints. Sketch one tiny, elegant detail from it on a napkin and leave it on the table at a coffee shop. If you have a world-changing truth to tell, don't give a speech. Find one person you trust and ask them a hypothetical question that contains the seed of your idea. I was just wondering, what if we thought about X in this way? The purpose of this is not to get feedback or validation. It is purely to break the seal of your self-imposed quarantine. It's to practice the physical act of transmission in a low-stakes environment. You are learning to let go of the signal, to trust that it will find its own way. You are striking the tuning fork, just once, and letting the note hang in the air. This three-step process, audit, rehearse, modulate, moves you from a state of paralyzed perfectionism to one of quiet, resonant action. It is the practical application of Kenji's final manifesto. ## Phase 5. The proof. Visuals. We return to the animation cells. We see Kenji, looking determined but weary, sneaking into a small, dusty radio station late at night. The shots are tense, like a thriller. He isn't at a stadium, he's in a forgotten room at the edge of the city. Voiceover. So, does this actually work? Is this just a comforting fiction, or is there a deeper truth to the principle of resonance? In the climax of Ghost Frequency, the Yagami Corporation is about to activate their city-wide pacification signal during a massive protest. They've cornered Kenji. They believe he will either have to join them or try to fight their signal with his own, leading to a chaotic psychic war over the airwaves. He does neither. He doesn't go to the protest. He doesn't try to create a counter-signal to fight them. He finds the smallest, weakest, most forgotten AM radio station in Tokyo. In the dead of night, he breaks in and for 3 minutes, he broadcasts a simple, melancholic instrumental piece. It's a track full of the static he recorded, his breathing, the hum of his gear, the sound of rain on his window. It's quiet, intimate, and profoundly human. The executives at Yagami are baffled. The signal is too weak. It can't possibly compete. But it does. It doesn't overpower their signal. It bypasses it. Across the city, people listening to the state-controlled news or the corporate pop stations don't even notice. But the protester with a cheap transistor radio in their pocket, the taxi driver scanning the dial for something to stay awake, the night watchman listening to the oldies station, they catch it. The song doesn't tell them what to do. It doesn't contain a message. It simply, for a moment, makes them feel seen. It resonates with their own anxiety, their own hope, their own static. It breaks the spell of the corporate frequency not by shouting, but by reminding them of their own humanity. The protest doesn't become more violent. It becomes more resolute. The pacification signal fails. The logic is flawless. Force begets resistance. A direct assault on a belief system only makes that system defend itself more rigorously. But resonance is subversive. It doesn't attack. It awakens. This isn't just cinematic fantasy. It mirrors a profound psychological and sociological truth. Think of the scientific concept of emergence, complex systems arising from simple, local interactions. Change doesn't come from a top-down decree. It emerges from countless small, resonant actions. The biologist and philosopher Rupert Sheldrake proposed the controversial but compelling idea of morphic resonance, the theory that memory is inherent in nature and that patterns of form and behavior are transmitted through a kind of collective memory field. A new idea is hard to have for the first time, but becomes progressively easier for others to have as it spreads, resonating through this field. You don't have to believe in the pseudoscience to see the psychological truth. Every major social movement, every artistic revolution, began not with a primetime broadcast, but with a modulated signal. A zine passed from hand to hand. A conversation in a coffee shop. A song played in a smoky basement. These ideas found the people who were already tuned to their frequency, and together, they grew from a hum into a roar. The Amplifier's dread is based on a false premise, that it is your job to single-handedly change the world. It isn't. Your job is to strike your note, as clearly and honestly as you can. Your job is to be the tuning fork. ### Phase 6. The call to action. Visuals. The final shots are slow, contemplative. A close-up on the spinning reel of a tape machine. The hand from the opening shot now rests peacefully, no longer reaching for the knob. The final shot is of a single, old speaker, a low, warm hum gently emanating from it. Voiceover. The unplayed song. The unwritten book. The unspoken truth. We all have one. It is the source of our greatest potential, and often, our deepest anxiety. It is the frequency we are terrified to broadcast. Kenji Tanaka's final manifesto is a reminder that the most powerful act is not to shout, but to resonate. To embrace your own static, to play for yourself, and to release your truth into the world with the quiet confidence of a single, perfect note. And so now, I have a question for you. A modulated signal. In the comments below, I want you to tell us, what is the unplayed song in your life? You don't have to expose the details. Just describe the feeling. Is it a whisper? A roar? A simple melody? Let's create a space where we can acknowledge the static together. We believe that the past is a repository of these lost manifestos, these forgotten frequencies that can help us navigate the present. If you are also an explorer of these hidden histories and psychological maps, then subscribe to Hello, Yesterday. Our work is to listen for the ghosts in the static. The paralysis Kenji faced is a powerful form of self-sabotage, born from a fear of one's own power. If you want to explore the darker side of this phenomenon, we examined why entire nations sometimes choose failure in our deep dive, the Tunguska event, a psychological autopsy. Click here to continue the investigation. The world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs more honest ones. Tune your instrument. Strike the note. And then, just listen.